Welcome, one and all. This is the Waves Open Sessions. My name is MPA. You could call me MPA. Today is a special one. We have special guest, my new friend, Fabian Marasciullo. We're going to be going through a T-Pain song. We're going to be talking about how to get vocals to really gel in a mix, how to bring two different vocalists together, how he gets T-Pain to sound so freaking awesome, and we're going to be taking a ton of questions from you. So, without further ado, let us roll into the Waves Open Sessions. Roll it! Welcome to the Waves Open Sessions, and welcome to my friend Fabian Marasciullo. How are you going? How's LA? How's life? And remember, some people have only just started watching, so I can ask that twice.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, life is good, man. I keep looking at it like this. It could always be worse, man. You know, so you don't want to jinx yourself by saying that, but I feel real lucky compared to, a lot of people I know that are in a lot worse shape. You know what I mean? So LA's nuts. It's still shut down. Half the people want to wear a mask. Half the people don't want to wear a mask. Some people don't care about this, that, but we're not here to talk politics. But yeah, LA's wild, man. It's always wild, so.
Yeah, we live on two wild sides of the planet.
Oh, yeah. Florida's just as bad, man. Florida's crazy too.
Isn't it? Okay, so what are we going to talk? So we've got a track today by T-Pain. So let's talk about the track for a second. Tell us about when did you record this? How did it come about? What was the process so that we know what we're dealing with?
All right, yeah. So this song's called "Wake Up Dead." It's on. They released it already, but it's on Payne's upcoming album that we're finishing up. As far as recording, I didn't record it. He records everything himself nowadays. It took us many years to get him in the right setup, but he's one of us, man. He's definitely one of us. Like he's a tech nerd like the rest of us. So he records everything himself, and he does a really good job. We got the settings, we got pretty much everything, good to go. So he sent the session over, and then I found out that we were getting Chris Brown on it. So then, that always adds an extra layer of, getting stuff to match and line up and things like that. So, yeah, that's pretty much how I got it going. And then it's pretty big. I mean, I don't know. I think you guys can see the screen and everything. I've got a lot of stuff because this song's been done already. So I comped a lot of stuff down to make it more simple for our presentation. But like a lot of backgrounds, guitars, things like that have been comped down. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty much a typical T-Pain production. Yeah.
Well, let's have a quick listen so we know what we're dealing with.
Sure. Here we can. Well, you know what? I got it pretty raw right now because I broke everything down. But
you play whatever you want, my friend.
Okay. All right. So, well, you know what? I'll show you what. This is where we started. Let me bypass all this. Sorry, Zoom stuff's new for me, guys.
I don't want to be the one to wake
so mute you for a second so we don't get bleed. Okay.
Trust me, you're gonna love this thing you'll see. Baby, just tell me you don't love me, and I'll admit it ain't that deep. No, you know I care for some of your real feelings. Oh no, it ain't that sweet. No, just as long as you're the one who kills me. Cause I don't wanna wake up dead. Cause I don't wanna wake up dead.
All right, so
you get the idea. So that's a pretty much raw of what, I kind of muted a bunch of things and kind of bypassed, plugins and things like that. So that's kind of like a raw session that I would get from Payne on on a normal time when we're doing something together.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so just one thing. Do us a favor because you're using a wide screen. Can you zoom everything out just a bit and make it a bit wider so everybody at home can see it a bit better?
Like this? How's that feel?
And down a bit as well, just vertically and horizontally. Just make the tracks a bit bigger if
like
possible.
That? Or
actually, the thicker. So then narrow.
Got it. Like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just makes it easy because you're using a wide screen and I've cropped it. All right, so let's talk about let's go straight and dig into it. Let's talk about T-Pain's vocal first, because obviously one of the things we're talking about in this event is how to make vocals gel and how to make vocals pop. So
So, the popularity of vocals nowadays it's very thin and I don't know if that's just because people are getting more and more used to hearing, what would be considered a rough mix to some, you know what I mean? So it hasn't really been cleaned up. So it's kind of like, all right, people's ear get used to hearing that. So it's like, all right, we go with that, but we still kind of stay true to our core of what we do. When I say we, I mean me. So I try to stay, stay true to myself, I look at us as artists anyway, as mixers, but, from a technical standpoint, I guess. But, so Payne will come in. The first thing I'll do is, I always listen to him against the music, kind of see what's going on. I try to look for the argumentative, like where he's going to fight with, right? It's going to be a guitar. It's going to be a snare.
Remember, we're going to have to deal with the bleed here. So try, if you can, not to talk too much over the music. If you can, otherwise we'll drive everybody nuts.
Got it. Sorry, guys. This is all new process to me. I'm sorry. So what I'll do is...
Hold on. There you go.
I'll talk without the music for a minute. So what I'll try to do is I'll listen to Payne against his, against the things that I think will fight with him, being a guitar, some strings, maybe, anything in that same frequency range. So I'll start there. And then what I'll do is I'll start working on him by himself, and I'll clean up the things that annoy my ears. And this is anything. So, and I know a lot of guys, this is something, guys and girls, that I stress a lot. People always walk in, we call it the engineer shuffle. That's what I call it. You walk in the studio and you're like, you start looking, immediately, like, eye hustling. You're like, oh, what's he using over here? What's this? What's that? But, the thing that I always try to remind people is, what's working now. Don't worry so much about what frequency I'm doing or what kind of compression or what kind of anything I'm doing. You want to understand why I'm doing it, because when you're doing, when you're back at home, you're not going to have the same recording. You're not going to, obviously. So it's like, oh man, that works so good for him. Yeah. But if you understand, and that's always been my, a pet peeve of mine, it's like, well, I use the same thing. This is what Fabian uses, or this is what this guy uses. That's cool. But if you don't understand why you're using it, it's completely useless information. You know what I'm saying? So that's something I want to stress to you guys before we even get, go further into this. Right. So first thing I'll do is I'll start with cleaning up the annoying peaks. I'll try to, so our compressors are really good. I already have it on here, but
all right. So which track are we looking at? Because you've got
we're looking at. So this
there you go. Yeah. We're in the middle. Yep, beautiful.
Yeah, we're right here. I'll highlight it so we can all kind of focus on it, right? And then is the plugin in a good position?
The plugin is in a great position.
Okay. So what I'll do here is, and this is another thing I want to stress to you guys. Just remember this: there's no wrong, right? There's no wrong anything. There's no wrong method. Pro Tools is amazing. A lot of these DAWs obviously have the same features of it, but I use Pro Tools for my mixing. But there's no wrong, right? There's no too much. There's no this. There's no that. Well, I'll show you when there's too much. But what I'm talking about is too much things in your chain. If you can get more, if you need something else, use it. Why not? You know what I mean? Don't be scared of it. So I'll start with a compressor. And I don't know how I could, I guess maybe you lead me through the best way to do this. If you want me just to activate everything or do it as we go, or because I can't talk over when the music's playing. So
no, so everybody knows one of the things we're going to do here, because we had a bit of an adventure trying to get headphones set up. I have a little button here, and I'm going to mute Fabian when he starts playing the music so that you don't get the bleed. Him and I working through this. Remember, it's live, so it's fun.
Live people.
Well, okay. So let's do it this way, Fabian. So we've got our comp on here.
Yeah.
Let's just show us what else you've got on there, and then what we can do is we can go through the plugins and activate them bit by bit.
Sure. So I've got I got the R comp to start, and what I'm using that for, and which I kind of pretty much use on anytime I'm mixing a vocal, is the initial just cleanup, I call it. So it's getting rid of these peaks that are going to really screw with me later on. It's going to make my job easier as far as, keeping the vocal sitting without doing a ton of automation. I'm a lazy guy. There's too much stuff going on. But anyway, so we got the R compressor. Then after that, I'll dig in. I really like the CLA mix hub. It's
beautiful.
All the CLA.
Let's stick it in the middle of the screen.
Yeah. All the CLA stuff to me over the years, I always praise. Like, to me, it's like, if you're new and trying to figure out mixing and things like that, you could throw these things on, and they're like, this is not an endorsement thing. This is like, I never even met him. You know what I mean? But it's like, to me, this stuff comes like, and you're like, it just works, and it works very well. This particular SSL module is the best, hands down, that of all of them, because there's a million of them. I've had it literally. I've tried them all. I've checked them out all as recently as last week. I was like, oh, geez, I threw another one on and I was wondering where the bass went with the same setting. I was like, what the hell? Oh, I had the wrong one. Boom. The CLA, like it's phenomenal what this one has done for the modeling of it. It's just unbelievable, especially in the low mids and the bottom end. So keep that in mind, guys.
One of the things I love about this plugin is that as well, apart from the fact that the modeling and the processing on this sounds so freaking amazing, is the fact that you can then insert another plugin in the chain.
Right.
And then you can decide on what you can do something more SSL-y than an SSL. You can actually choose whether you want the compression before the EQ or the EQ before, or where you want the extra plugin, which is very cool.
I did not know you could do that. Now I do. Thank you so much, man. That's very cool. Now.
You should try it.
Yeah, now I will. All right. So then after that, we've got the a de-esser, right? And I use multiple de-essers on all my vocals. I don't try to I don't like, I see a lot of people, you know, when you start getting into vocals, the most important thing for me, at least as a mixer, is that you don't want unnatural sounding vocals, right? You want it to feel like you're in the room. You want to be experiencing the performance. You want to know what the artist was trying to get to. And it always is annoying to me when it sounds like, oh my God, like you see these like, picture like sometimes I get a session to mix and I'm like, what the hell did this guy do to the vocals? And you look at the curve, you bring up the EQ, and it looks like an EQ you would use to tune a room, right? Like it would clean out, like so I'm like, why is this on the vocals? So to me, it's like you're gonna want to do. I do a lot of more wide band. I do a lot of more, you know, like gradual movements, and that's when I was saying earlier. You have we could call it a limited because you can commit and then add another one, commit and add another one. So to me, it's like, okay, I don't try to overkill in any one particular plugin, and that's always kind of been my method for mixing. Like, all right, well, this got a compressor on it. Yeah, but I like the R compressor before it. That cleans up what I want. Then if I need a little more compression, I could add it here. If I need a little more, I can add it again. You know what I mean? Like that's always been my process, little steps of little movements. You know what I mean? That's been my thing. So something for you guys to keep in mind.
That is something. So we've got a de-esser, we've got CLA Mix Hub, we've got R Comp.
Right. And then now we're going to get, so here's a perfect example. So the CLA vocals, right, which I praise all this stuff. I mean, it's crazy. But anyway.
By the way, Chris, if you're watching, mate, I'm going to introduce you to Fabian in an email.
We need that, man. I love that guy. He's you know, the legend. So but here, so the next step for me on this one, I could tell, you could see I added some bite. All I added was the treble. I'm not using anything else in the module. So for me, it was like, okay, well, this particular, I love the way this EQ sounds. I need to cut a little bit. Boom, here we go. That's what I have there, right?
Yeah.
Next in line is Vitamin. Vitamin is so cool. I don't know if a lot of you like I probably don't even use it to its potential because there's so much cool stuff you could do on it. But again, you could just see little gradual things I have in the mids and highs, little of the width I'm working with. You know what I mean? So it's like, and this will all make sense as I start playing the song. I'll start activating them as we go, so you can kind of see what it did.
Do you want to give an elevated pitch in this one, or do you want me to? So for anybody who hasn't seen it before.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
So one of the cool things about Vitamin, or as we say in Australia, vitamin. One of the cool things about Vitamin is it gives you the ability to alter the width of different frequencies, like your low mids, your high mids, and your highs. So you can go in and you can actually fine tune the crossover of frequencies, and then choose whether it's a completely mono section of the sound or whether it's really wide. Or there's also a button that lets you drag the width of all of the frequency ranges at the same time. So it's nearly like being able to mix within the mix within a mix.
Yeah, so cool.
It's a pretty amazing plugin.
Totally, man. And again, I'm like, I've definitely not touched half of what this thing can do, and I just like to use, like I was saying earlier, I like to use everything in steps. So this, to me, I needed a little more on the top and the high mids, you know what I mean? So that's why I was like, oh, this is great. And then I can kind of mono up some of them, and then on the top end, I can make it a little bit wider. It's cool, you know, it's a very cool thing. Yeah. And it sounds weird because it's a mono signal feeding it, but you'll understand as we go. Okay. And then at the end, I'll put another de-esser. So one of my mentors, Dexter Simmons, you know, people, why wouldn't you put a de-esser at the end, right? I get sessions all the time. The de-esser's in the beginning, right? And I do have one earlier. But it's kind of like, all right, at the end of here, you'll notice it's in a different frequency as the initial one. They're close.
Let's bring them all into the into the center.
See, they're close, but they're just a little bit different, and the one's a little bit more narrow. So because what I did was on T-Pain in particular, his sweet spot is around 4 to 8K, right? But it's also where it'll fucking take your ear off, you know? So it's like I have to really treat those areas a lot in order to get him in your face without hurting your ears. Cause you know, he's got that, especially when he's going through his tuning, he's got that, you know, that kind of harshness going on. So that's why at the end of mine, you'll see another, and then it's actually hitting another one. I'll show you later on as a group. But yeah, so that's pretty much my chain, man, on for him in particular on this. His was already processed, so you know, I mean his
auto tune that he does.
His tuning was processed.
So I'm assuming that he does that himself.
He does it. He definitely does it himself.
I mean, it's nearly like a trademark thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much it's his thing, and you know, he's definitely made a thing out of it, and honestly, there's been times where he sends it to me and I'll try to change it. Because we had this time where we were trying to like get him to not have autotune, right? And I don't know if any of you guys watched The Masked Singer, and everybody was like, oh my God, Payne can really sing. I'm like, Payne is one of the most incredible singers ever. You know what I mean? Like he's unbelievable. And like, he actually gave me a song he gave it as a gift to me and my wife for our wedding, where he performed it and the song didn't have autotune on it. And everybody at the wedding was like, what the hell what is going on here? You know what I mean? So I'm glad, you know, so there was a time where I was like trying to take off some auto tune and trying to do things and trying to make it sound more natural. And so now so long story short, he processes it before he sends me the vocal now. So I can never do that again. He wants it how he sounds, and that's it.
Well, it's a trademark. It's like I was lucky enough to sit in a session that he did in Miami once at Circle House, I think. And it's like, yeah, I was totally surprised. I shouldn't have been, but I was surprised. I mean, the guy's got mad talent in so many ways.
Yeah, he's an animal. The guy's an animal, man.
So one of the comments that we've got here is from Chucky, who's saying that he really doesn't mind the bleed. It's more important for him to hear the commentary. So I'm hoping that a few of you will be okay with that. So because I do want to make sure that all of you hear what Fabian is saying. So
and then listen, I do want to tell you guys, I mean, hit me up on Instagram. You could DM me. It's Fabian Marasciulo at Fabian Marasciulo. Hit me up. I try to anybody will tell you, I try to respond to everybody I can. But if you guys have any questions or anything further, feel free to reach out to me. Like this is all about building and helping each other, you know? So please feel free at any time to hit me up, even when this is over, even, you know, a year down the road, like, oh, by the way, you know, so hit me up whenever.
But don't text him at 3 a.m. He gets really shitty about that.
Yeah, well, I'm usually I definitely, my head hits the pillow when I'm out. So.
All right. So let's see if we can make this work with the volume down in your speakers at your end a bit and see if we can minimize it.
See how's that's going to work here.
Sleepless nights trying to learn how to die in my sleep.
How's that affect? That's good for you guys?
No, I think it's good. I think we can get away with that.
Okay.
I mean, we're live.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll let me bypass these things back.
Baby, just tell me you don't love me, and I'll admit it ain't that deep.
So, like I was saying, we'll start off, and you'll notice he's dry, right?
Yeah.
Because right now we're just trying to figure out where he's going to sit, you know? And when I say sit, it means frequency-wise. So we got him with our guitar, right? And you can see they're both, you know, he's muddy, right? You know, we'll call it warm, right? So we don't insult anybody. He didn't record himself muddy. It's warm.
Remember that these vocals are coming through loud and clear, and Zoom is affecting your vocals. So if you're going to talk over it, make sure you talk a bit louder.
Okay, got it. How's it? How's that?
That's
is
better.
That right? Okay, all right. So now we're talking about his conversation between him and the guitar, right? Which is our main thing. And then we got pads and stuff when the hook and everything come in. But if you notice, the main part of the song is the drums and this guitar.
Yes.
All right. So you're here now as I add the arc compressor. It's not doing a lot. It's really not. You know what I mean? It's probably even doing too much.
No, it's a light threshold.
Yeah. So it's not, you know, and it's the ratio's kind of low. It's a slower attack, fast release. It's always kind of been my thing. So it kind of lets it breathe a little bit. You know what I mean? It's not limiting. You know, it's not working too hard. You know, it's just, let me mute the vocal. Sorry. So it's just cleaning it up. All it's doing is getting rid of the peak. It's kind of putting him in a pocket. Kind of put, you know, we'll call it the first range of glue that we got, right? Now I'm going to try to get a little bit more of the clarity out of it. So That's where the EQ is starting to come in. And if you look here, this particular one, I'm putting some top end on it. 12 and a half, right? Where we at here? Yeah, like the higher mids. Now, if we're going to go back, I'm going to keep stopping. Sorry, guys. But if you're going to look at him, this is his conversation between him and the guitar, right? Because this whole song is about, and it's every song. You're going to approach the main melody with the vocal, right? So now, all right, starting to come together now, right? But now his S's are driving me nuts. Sleepless nights. And you'll see this is not doing a lot.
None of this is doing a lot. It's very cool, that the combination of it all, though.
Yeah. So that's always been my thing. And I approach that way too. And we'll get into other things later on. But I do that with drums. I do that with everything. I don't like to overdo it on a channel, because once you start over processing stuff, I think it's because I was so used to with Pro Tools 1 and I'm a tape guy, you know what I mean? So it's like, I come from I'm old, man. So it's like, once you start dealing with these, I'm not that old, don't worry. But anyway, once you start,
we're old,
over processing, once you start over processing things, that's when you should start to get a pile of shit in any digital environment. The more you're doing at one time, to me personally, you start getting this digital top end, you start getting these EQs and plugins have come such a long way, but there is still a thing where you start overdoing it at one time, and it becomes problematic for me, at least. So I don't know if that's everybody, but this is, we're here to talk what screws with me today. So here we go.
So I have a question for you while you're doing this, because I mean, one of the guys, by the way, Mad Savvy, I don't think that's your name. If it is, it's very cool. Awesome. There's a couple of people like Mad Savvy's asking if we can kind of like do a couple of full bypasses of everything, sure, so they can get an idea of what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's where we kind of started. But let me hear. So this is where, because I was kind of adding it in. Everything is bypassed. I don't know what you could see on the screen or not, but everything is pretty much bypassed. Now
I see it. Yeah, I see it.
Let me move this out of my way.
For those of you who are trying to look through his session, there is a lot going on there. It's in the middle, and the track we're looking at is right.
I have them highlighted. I don't know if it...
where the de-esser is. Yeah,
it's right here. And then I have another aux that everything is fed through. All my vocals are fed through. I'm going to go ahead and bypass all of that, because I was going to make my way over there. I was going to kind of show you guys as we went. But so here's just him by himself.
All right, so I'm going to mute you for a second. If we can go bypass, and then you can add it in. I'll mute you for a second, though, so everybody can hear clear.
Maybe just tell me you don't love me, and I'll admit defeat. It ain't that deep, 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 deep. Nah, you know I kill for some of your real feelings. Oh no, it ain't that sweet, 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 sweet. No, just as long as you're the one who kills me. 'Cause I don't wanna wake 'em dead, wake 'em dead, wake 'em dead.
Wow.
I don't wanna wake 'em dead, wake 'em dead.
And then you're gonna go over here.
'Cause I don't wanna wake 'em dead. I don't wanna turn them missing. But I can get you out of my head. Baby, I just needed you to listen. 'Cause I don't wanna wake 'em dead. If I ain't got you, then I'm already gone. Baby, don't leave me alone, 'cause I don't wanna wake 'em dead. I'ma take 23 shots of Patron, 'cause girl, if you ain't coming back home, then I don't wanna wake up. Sleepless nights, trying to learn how to die in my sleep.
There's another one of my favorites.
I don't wanna wake up without a heartbeat. Trust me, you're gonna love this. Stay in your seat. Baby, just tell me you don't love me, and I'll admit it ain't that deep. It ain't that deep, 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 deep. You know I kill some of your real feelings.
All right, so if you want to unmute, or
yeah. I'm
unmuted. Okay, so that was kind of the chain of, and we're gonna go back into it a little bit slower, but just kind of wanted to show you the before and after. And this is dry still. We haven't added any effects at all yet, right? No. So you'll notice like there's a ton of stuff happening, like from on this aux that he's feeding to over to my master. I have like a master vocal aux, and I do that so I can, and that'll be something we'll get into as we add Chris into it and things like that, because you're feeding, we're getting pain going, and then I'm going to get Chris to kind of sit the same, and then I'm going to have control over the two of them together, right? So that's why everything is feeding to another aux. So there we go. This is my,
that aux is right under my face, by the way. So we'll have to.
It's over here. It's highlighted. I don't know if you can see my pointer.
Yeah, it's right under my face.
So, and then another thing. So I'm gonna put all the plugs on the screen that are going through the bigger aux, right? So you can still hear me. So basically, you're gonna see also everything is just little bits, right? It's not overdoing it. Like I get a lot of sessions. I mean, I'm lucky enough. I'm a mixer, right? I don't want to call it lucky. I mean, some days are better than others. But my dream was to be a mixer, and I made my career go towards that. So here I am, a mixer. I get sessions from everybody all around the world, and you get to see good and bad what people are doing, and you know, you question a lot what the hell is going on, you know. But see, this is my method. Like a lot of times I get things where when I say there's too much processing, right? And you're probably looking at me like, this guy's crazy. He's telling me you process too much, and he's got 25 plugins working on one.
But there's only a bit happening in each of these. That's the thing.
Yeah, and so that's always been, so that's kind of been my method. So I came up, I came up in New York at the Hit Factory in New York, and we had every console, we had every piece of gear that you could imagine, right? We had every tape machine, we had everything. Then they bought the Hit Factory Miami. They sent me down there to help get the staff going to what the standards were of the New York. And then I started, and then that's kind of where my career kind of blossomed, was down there. But so when I went to Miami, we had the 9000 SSL, the 9000J, we had the Sony Oxford, which was freaking amazing. And then we had the Neve 8068. So I learned a lot about what each of these things do. And then mostly what I learned about was color. So when I'm adding things, I always I try to, can I get the same thing from one EQ? The HEQ is awesome. I can do whatever I want on it, right? But the HEQ against the Abbey Road, against the REQ, against, the vinyl, the Abbey Road vinyl, against any of these things, when you're having this, you each of those adds a different character to it. And that's why I'm doing less in each one individual, and that's always been my method. And my point was, I learned that down there because you learn what the colors of each of these other consoles do. Like, oh my god, like I would go into the Neve room, I would mix all the drums and bass, then I would take it over to the Sony and do all the the strings and things like that. Then I would finish it up, put it all together on the SSL, and then that would be my final mix, because we had all the automation and everything I wanted. Automation, man. Remember automation on boards? I'm such an old man. But anyway,
I've worked in that studio. I like the automation on the boards. And that Sony Oxford was kick-ass.
Oh no, it's unbelievable. So the point is, that's why I do. I'm not doing any less. I'm not telling you guys don't process. Do a bunch of stuff, but just understand that each time that you're adding something, it adds something else to it other than what you're doing. And I love that. And that to me is the beauty of mixing. Like you want to just do more than was there. You want to give them the best that you can. And then, all right, well, I got this plugin, let me try it. So that's what this does. The same EQ, I'm using the same frequencies, but it does it a little bit different. So that's my method on processing things. So,
and I think one of the takeaways from this, Fabian, as well, that just you kind of breezed on it at the beginning of guiding us through this track, was everything happens in bits, but the fact is you've got to understand exactly what every single one of those plugins is doing, and what compression is doing, and what the EQ is doing, and what you're using it for. Otherwise, doing all of that still isn't going to get you any closer to a good sound.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, guys. Like, you'll see, like, man, this isn't doing much. It's really doing a lot of little minuscule things, and as they add up, you'll go and I think these master classes are great, but unfortunately we all have different material that we're working on, right? So it's like, how does that interact into yours? So that's why it's important for you to understand why I'm doing it. So the first compressor, why I'm doing that is to clean up the major peaks, to kind of just start putting a little glue on it, try to get it to sit where he's not moving around too much, right? The next thing on my chain is my EQ. I'm using the CLA mix up. This one I added some top end to it and some higher mids, right? Then I'm going to de-ess. I'm going to start to get rid of the stuff that's already starting to annoy me, because as I'm getting into the next step of things, it's going to only annoy me more as I'm starting to compress more, as I'm starting to do more things. It's only going to annoy me more. So that's why I got the de-esser there. Next step. Okay. It still needs a little more air to it. And you guys heard when I finally engaged this.
Sleepless nights trying to learn how to die in my sleep. I don't want to be the one to wake up
and it's one little tiny thing on there. It's one little fader. Could I have found that on another plugin? Could I have done that here in the mix hub? Yeah. But it wouldn't have happened before my de-esser. I mean, it would have happened before my de-esser. It would have grabbed a different. So now the de-esser pulled a little something. I want to add something back that the de-esser might have pulled from there, right? Vitamin, same type of thing. I wanted to add a little more mids to it. So as I added the CLA, okay, now it's a little too bright. Well, not gonna even say too bright. Now it's showing a lot more on the top. Okay, now I need to bring the mid back to fill it, right? And then another de-esser. Right. Before it goes over to the next aux, and then I'm doing more EQing. The vinyl thing is a little bit more, it's very minuscule what it's doing, but it's adding a little bit of grit to it, a little bit of, a little more glue to it.
I have a relevant question here, which is Jim wants to know, and he's curious what the second L3 low latency is doing in the aux chain.
Down here at the end.
Yeah.
Basically, it's literally doing nothing more than making sure I don't peak. It's like a safety thing for me.
Okay.
Because as I start to, there's different parts of the song where I'm doing a little bit more automation. It's really not processing at all, but it's kind of it's just going through it as kind of it's basically just a basic final protection, call it a circuit, if you will.
Yeah, I actually find I'm using the L3LL a lot these days on tracks and in auxes because it's so good at what it does.
Super cool.
Okay, moving on. Just one. Where was the other question? Ruben wants to know when is a good idea to use parallel compression in vocals?
Okay, so I don't use it, and I get fried all the time. I don't use it on my drums. I don't use it on my vocals, and everybody's like, "Oh, you could do this, you could do that, or you get it to sound like that without this." I'm not the guy to ask about that. I'm really sorry, really sorry. I don't use it at all. But I do feel like the method that I say I don't use it. I don't use it in the sense of having a parallel compressor running next to my vocal, right? But I do use it in the sense, in my opinion, the way I'm processing my stuff, I use it. Everything is parallel if you think about it, because it's kind of like, okay, I got that. Now I'm adding this into what I did from that on the last one. So in my mind, am I making sense? In my mind, it's like
you're totally making sense.
Yeah, like I'm in the way I'm building my chain. After I'm like, all right, this is doing just this is doing that. That'd be the same thing you're doing with parallel compression. If you think about it, you're just kind of grabbing those certain frequencies on the side. So for me, it's like I'm doing that as I go, so I don't have to do that. It just never was something I really got into. I tried a few times. It just never gave me. And there's guys that do it and do it really well. I mean, the legends do it. It just never worked for me. Yeah.
Well, just to correct you on something, you are one of the legends, so stop that. Now, another quick question here. Amit wants to know. So, we already know T-Pain tunes his vocals before you get to them because he doesn't want you messing around with them anymore, and he knows you well enough to know that you will.
Right.
Do him and Chris, the question from Amit though is, does T-Pain or Chris Brown compress their vocal on the way in, or is it just mic pre in into a DAW?
You know what, Chris, I don't know. I'm not familiar with his recording process. This was a feature that was sent into us. But Payne definitely he does compression, and like I said, Payne as a young T-Pain, we definitely we came up together. So for he definitely does. He'll do the same type of thing. It's a slower attack with a fast release, and his ratio is super low. It's not a lot of compression, man. Like maybe 3-to-1,
Wow.
Things like that. It's not a ton of compression going on, and that's always kind of been my method mixing too. It's kind of like I don't overdo it with compression. I kind of just find ways to. I'm gonna get fried for this. I find ways to get it to sit with EQ versus compression.
No, I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you on that one. And I'm fairly positive that everybody here is just super grateful for what's going on. One guy, Richard Olson, says, "What's the deal with the vinyl?" And I'm assuming that's the
over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, to me, it's I put it on print. And you'll see I turn up the rate a little bit of the wow. It's basically I come from, we use tape a lot. One of my mentors, Dexter Simmons, taught me how to hit tape. Taught me how to hit, use a +6 tape with a +9, setting on the tape machine, things like that. So he taught me how to do that. And he showed me the cool stuff that it will do, especially to a vocal. So when you're hitting tape a certain way, it gives a thing like, makes it orange, you know, it makes it like, it's not overdriven, it's not distortion, it just gives it a thing, you know. And that's what I've used this for. And if you look at it, it's probably very close to what the factory default setting is. It's not a lot, just like anything else. I turn up the noise a little bit, I turn down the crackle a little bit, but it just gives it a grit that we don't have in our digital environment. So it just adds a little bit more to that.
Right. There's another question here from, I think I've got your name right, Neon Lay. When you're listening, what are you listening for when it comes to compression, EQ, and de-essing? It's like, okay. Is there a goal there, or is it per song, per artist, per EQ, per everything?
You know what? There's always going to be things that are a little different. Like, for instance, yesterday I was mixing, it was a song, it had the heaviest 808, with a flute and then a vocal and a snare, right? And it was like, okay, so there I'm listening for where the vocal is going to sit, right? So right. I mean, anything. So you basically, your conversation is always going to be, can it cut? Can I turn the vocal? Can I turn the music all the way down? When I say not the music, when I turn my volume all the way down in my studio, what am I still hearing, right? Is the vocal sitting where the snare is? Is it coming over the bass? If I put some AirPods on and I listen to it, is the vocal still sitting there? So the initial compressor that I'm listening for is getting rid of his peaks. Like, you know, did he bang on the microphone? Is he moving forward? What's he doing? Right. So it kind of creates a control. That's just saving me time. You know, the first compressors, that's saving me time. It's like, do I have to ride the vocal, 100 times for the next 3 hours, or can I put a compressor on it? It's going to get 90% of it, and I can clean it up that way. That's what I'm listening for on that. The EQ, what the goal is of the EQ, the initial EQ, is to get him to find a pocket. Like, put your hand like this and go like this, right? So it's like, all right, so here's my guitar, and now the vocal fits in the middle of it. So I dug this with the guitar, and now I'm finding the vocal can go here. So that's what an EQ, that's what I'm searching for, pocket, spacing pocket. You know what I mean? And then the de-esser is, like I said, it's getting rid of the crap that's annoying me. Because if it annoys me, it's definitely going to annoy you, and you're not going to know why, but it's annoying me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you hit on something super important there. It's like one of my mentors, Jeff Thomas in Sydney in like the late 80s, early 90s, taught me this. It's like, if you're not listening at low volume, you're not really going to hear what frequencies are pumping out at you, right, and what's dominant and what's being lost. So, and now, because of the fact that everybody's listening in these things, which are the headphones that come with your phone, whatever else, people aren't listening to records on PMCs. No. It's just us.
No, it's not. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it is. And then, and then it comes the argument, well, if it sounds good here, it'll sound good anywhere. You got to have the right speakers in your studio. Everybody does the car test. Everybody does. I do the Auratone test. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just, but it's all about volume and fatigue and understanding what you're hearing. Like, no set of speaker, to me, like, I use Amphions, right? The 218s.
Right.
Phenomenal. When I first heard them, I lost my mind. I had to have them. Most incredible speakers I had ever heard. But what does that mean to you, right? It doesn't mean anything. As long as like, I've been in a room with the cheapest speakers with no treatment, but I knew my room, and I will hurt your feelings in that room with much less than you. You know what I mean? So it's all about, it doesn't have to be, I have to have this, I have to have $20,000 speakers, I have to have this. It's all about knowing your room and knowing what's there. So constantly learning and battling and challenging yourself,
Yeah, and having and taking, picking some very selective reference tracks that help you know what
exactly.
what you're working.
Like, what do you like? What do you like the sound of? And then a lot of these people don't have access to be an assistant for somebody like me, or like when I was coming up, I would assist Tony Maserati, I would assist John Marie, I would assist Dexter, Ray Bardani. People don't have that, but what you can still do is try to understand what they do when you listen to their mixes. I worked with Teddy Riley years later, but coming up, Teddy Riley was my favorite mixer. And the greatest producer to me, one of the greatest of all time, but mixer, he was like, so I would study his stuff. How did he do that? How did he do this? You don't have the opportunity, but you could sit and listen to, find your favorite songs. And, I say this all the time, but, and I don't try to bash like the new generation of guys, but it's hard to pick and choose now, and remember, just because a song is a hit doesn't mean it sounds good. You know what I mean? And it's like, but what does good mean, right? It's different. What Pensado always says, doesn't have to sound good, it has to sound different. So, pick and choose your references. Go back. Some of mine are Since You've Been Gone by Kelly Clarkson. That's like one of the greatest to me, production mix, could show you how a hook can be explosive. And another really, really good mix that to me is a great reference. I'm not going to, try to blow myself up here, but you can listen to A Milli by Lil Wayne. That was the unmanageable bass, the warmest, heaviest bass, arguably in a long time. So put that, and then, oh my God, you can still hear what's going on in the vocal. So you guys could study that for bottom end, but there's a million different things, and I'll make a list maybe, and I'll send it. We can put it along with this. These are my references that I listen to and why I listen to them. But yeah, so it's all about knowing your room, understanding what's there.
All right, so we got a couple of questions here. Nano says, are you only using that auxiliary to balance the two artists? And would you still send it to the aux with those plugins if T-Pain was working on a song alone?
Yeah.
And can he also, and also, would you mind going through those plugins on that aux?
Sure. All right. Yeah. I mean, I would. I always have like a master vocal aux, and that's just because more times than not, I'll need to, all right, everything's great. Now just turn it up a little bit, right? Or everything's cool, turn it down, or can you just bring up this section? So I always need that extra level of control. When I was on a console, it would be a VCA group I would have created. So now this is my, and you can still do that in Pro Tools, but this is my thing. I like to see the fader. I like to have it. I like to be able to manipulate it if I need to. So the answer is yes, I would definitely, if he was by himself, it'd still be going there. I made it a point to tell you guys because there was some tweaks that needed to be done once I got Chris and Payne together, and then I needed to do more tweaks in the overall to make it still fit back to the song. So the answer to that is, all is yes, it would still be going through that. And that kind of brings me to one more thing before we go into those. I do see a lot of people, and everybody, like I said, everybody's got their method, but I'll see, like, for instance, Payne is dry, right? Let me, I didn't open up his aux yet. We didn't get into the effects. So some people will see put on, they'll put like an R verb, or let's say the H verb on the vocal track itself, right? So I think this is the dumbest thing you could do, right? And this is my opinion, and I just want to tell you guys why. Like, this is a tip that I could give everybody that I try to embed in all my friends. You can find a great sound, right? You're going to turn down the what you call it. You're going to turn down the the dry wet to make it more, manageable, more like his vocal.
Sleepless nights trying
So
to
cool,
learn how to die in
right?
my sleep.
But now so say you're all done with the mix, you send it over, they're like, it's so badass, it's awesome. Just got to turn down just a little too much verb, right? But the problem when you're doing it on a channel like this, as opposed to sending it on an aux, if it's on an aux, you just pop open your send, lower it, and you're good. When you're on this, all right, he wants less verb, so I'm going to turn this down. But now that affects the overall volume of it. It affects, now I got to change this and I got to turn it up, or I got to turn it down because now he's a little bit louder. So anytime that you guys can, and this might seem, dumb or mundane to people, but anytime you guys can, just send it on an aux. You have way more control that way. You know what I mean? Like you can affect the output, you could do a million different things, and then it makes your changes easier later on. My thing is all about convenience, workflow, getting done, and I got to get done fast. I mean, I have so much work. I have to keep moving, so that's a little tip for you guys to save your time and stress later on. Because when they tell you everything's awesome, just turn on the reverb. Now you got to change the dry wet, and now I got to make sure the level's good. It's just an extra layer of things that you don't have to do.
Yeah, I have a template too that has all of my auxes for everything and all of my I/O setups and everything, so it's all done. Somebody told me years and years and years ago, back when I was working on a Tascam machine, it's like, make sure the studio is working for you. You're not working for it.
Yeah, no doubt, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so that aux, by the way, is right under my face, so we're going to have to move those plugins over to the left into the center of the screen, please, if we talk about
here, let me. So the first one is the HEQ, right? That you can see is got just a little bump going on. I guess it's around two something. Yeah. And then it's also got another bump. It looks like around, I don't know, maybe.
So I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say you made these by ear. You didn't look at the graph and go, I'm going to do that.
That's another thing too. Yeah, exactly. So and then boom, back to what I told you guys earlier. You don't care about what frequencies I'm using. You want to know why, right? You don't want to. This frequency is not going to work for you. It's never going to work for you. It'll get you in the ballpark, but it's not going to work for you. Understand why? So on this one in particular, I'm assuming, because kind of the way we're doing this is kind of hard for me to explain to you, but I need a little more mids. It wasn't cutting right. And then I need a little more on the higher, what we call them high mids or, low highs, whatever, however you want. Everybody says it differently. So that's why that's there. Right. This we spoke about a little bit at length, the Abbey Road vinyl, that just gives it a little bit of a thing. It gives it a little bit of a grit, that's why that's there. The settings on that probably are pretty standard. I think I might have changed it to print, and I might have turned up the wow rate, or maybe, turn down the noise a little bit. The next thing would be another de-esser. And it's still around that same frequency. I know I just told you guys don't worry about frequencies, but this is a sweet one for pain, that's his sweet area. And then this right here, this isn't all. It's funny. I've been using this plugin for so many years. There was, I love Dave Pensado. He's like one of my really, really good friends. We definitely, we have a ball when we're together. This was actually a freaking preset on what plugins does Dave Pensado use? And I saw it years ago and I was like, oh my God, I have to do this. So what this is doing, let me play some music.
Sleepless nights trying to learn how to die in my sleep. Sleepless nights trying to learn how to
so
die
this
in my
particular, I have the side chain solo now, so you can hear what's happening on it. So basically, it's compressing just that frequency, right? This is one of my favorite plugins for it, and it does. And you can see it's not doing much. I mean, I can make it extreme so you can see. Well, let me put the audio back so you can hear it.
Somebody's asked, how do you Andreas, what is your best tip to mix a vocal that's very sharp and harsh in the top? This seems to be one of your methods.
Yeah, this mixed with the 3 de-essers, right?
Yeah.
But you could see like this plugin right here, and you could see the way what I had it set when you guys got into the session with me. I just put it up so you could hear it better. It's not doing much again. But what it's doing is it's getting rid of, I think the frequency might be, look, 2378 or 28. I can't, my eyes are so bad. But and plus I got my light shining in my face, so I look good for you guys, But thank you. So what this is doing is getting rid of the harsh. That's a perfect question for right now. So this plugin is unbelievable. The C1 Comp SC, and it's awesome. I mean, I use it sparingly, as you can see. It's not doing a lot, but it's doing just enough to get rid of that harshness in my ear. Right. After the de-esser was. So the de-esser is grabbing. This is grabbing a little bit lower than that. All right. Moving on to the next. I got a limiter here, and you can see it's also not doing a lot.
I'm not even seeing any attenuation come in on that plugin.
Exactly. It's just more of like I want to call it a safety thing, but you can see every once in a while it'll just tap a little bit. It's not a lot. From there, got another EQ.
Trust me, you're gonna love this thing.
And if we look here, I mean, what was I doing on here?
Baby, just tell me you don't love me, and I'll admit
you're not doing a lot.
Yeah, I don't think if anything at all. Maybe a little bit of top end.
I'm seeing a bit in tone.
Yeah, it's really not much. And I'm sorry, guys. I probably sound so dumb. I'm trying to show you what I'm doing. I don't even know what I did.
Actually, no. If you could press stop for a second, there's one thing I do want to point out is like everything that Fabian is talking about right now is all about what he's making decisions with his ears, and that's one of the things I love about this. Is like for the fact that he doesn't know what the frequency is means he made the decision with his ears, and now he's just trying to tell us. That's brilliant.
Oh, cool.
That's,
all right,
that's a masterclass in itself. So I have a question here from Damien.
Yeah.
I'm assuming at some point that there was a remix competition. He says, notice in the backing vocals for Chris Stems for the remix competition were dry, then T-Pain backing vocals which were wet. Was that for Impact, etc.?
That was just a request from the company that was doing the what, that was just a request from them. I mean, yeah. I think that's just really what it was. I mean, when it comes down to stems and what's sent, it's generally what I was asked for, Yeah.
Colin says, Fabian, do you find it difficult to mesh an acoustic, more human sound vocal with a more computer-based sound, as well as like electric guitars, choir, acoustic and orchestral type instruments, mixing well with things like synths?
We're talking about the vocal conversation.
I think a bit of both actually, but I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, to answer the question, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not easy to do. It's easy for me now because there's been, I mean, how many hundreds, maybe thousands of songs have I mixed with T-Pain, but it all comes down to what's most important. That's always been my thing. It's like, okay, when I say what's most important, what's important in that particular song, right? So it's like, this one is driven by the guitar, and it's kind of got the acoustic. Well, it's definitely electric, but it's more strings. You know what I mean? You're hearing the frets of it. You got that, sitting with T-Pain, who's got a robotic voice. So how do I make him not sound extra robotic? Because the guitar is more of a natural sound. It's all about. So I chose that conversation for this particular song. So it becomes more difficult sometimes, especially like a lot of the records have this is a pretty bare bones production. A lot of them have 30, 40 sounds and then a vocal. So it's like, all right, how do I have that? How do I get that to work? Yeah, it's never easy, but at the same time, I make it easy by choosing the most important one. And I accentuate the conversation between those two. So in this one, it's obvious, but on other ones, it's not obvious. Right. So, I'll find what's the most driving synth, or I'll talk to the producer. What was your most important thing? What were you feeling on this? Like, where were you going? What was the most important sound for you? So yeah, that's kind of my approach on it,
So let's talk about one thing which I always like to bring up, which is your Desert Island plugin. What's the one plugin that you find that you're using more than anything right now?
People are going to think I'm like sponsored by this guy, but the CLA Mix Hub is, to me, I can't have a session without it. So if I had to pick something that I know that I can get through,
let's bring it up again then.
Yeah,
so people know which one it is.
It's this one. It's the SSL.
So what is? So I mean, okay. So genuine question, because everybody wants to know, is like, what is it that? What are the main parts of this plugin that make you love it so much, and why?
Well, all right. So the question in itself, like a Desert Island, right? It's like, well, you're gonna need a compressor, you need an EQ. All right, you got both here, right? So that's an obvious. Let's get that out of the way, right? So that's done. But what I love about this more, by the way, that you can add another insert to it. But the thing I love about it is the way it sounds. Like it does. It's got a low and a low mid that none of the other plugins that I've come across, and I've got, God, I don't even want to think about how much money I spent on plugins, but I've got a lot of plugins. So this one does this thing, and if you guys notice, and if you follow me on Instagram, I'm all about mids. Like mids are my life. You know what I mean? So to me, this is the best sounding plugin for mid-range vocals, for drums, for the bottom end of bass, all that stuff. And then you got your compressor on it. And then now, you could add another insert within the plugin, which is like, it's like, how can you, I don't know, how could you beat that? It's like, it's so cool. Like I said earlier, I found what I liked here. Now I could add a little something else if I need a little more flavor in it.
And then don't forget, you could also drag that and you can change the chain of events. So you could actually decide if you want the compression first or the EQ first, or if the plugin that you've inserted in there, if you want that somewhere else in the chain of events. It's one of the things I love about this. And the other thing to mention about this plugin, just in case, simply because I'm teaching you as well, Fabian, there's a light version of this as well. So this plugin does take a bit of processing. If you need to, there is a CLA Mix Hub Lite as well, so which is a cool thing to have. So one of the other questions before because we're going to have to close up in a few minutes, one of the questions is, how do you make and I'm sorry, I've lost it in the scrolling. I'm sorry, guys. One person asked, how do you make those background vocals sound so milky and so perfect?
Okay. So I like to use, I've already done a bounce because there was so many of them. It starts with the recording. We talked about this earlier. What is your, how is it, what are we doing now for the recording process? Does it all sound like crap? I mean, so, I'm lucky enough that a lot of the people I work with, I'm getting a great recording to begin with, right? It's like Serban to me is one of the freaking greatest mixers of all time. But then the argument is, well, he gets the best material. Okay, let's put that in there. Yeah, obviously he does, but he's still like, greatest of all time. But anyway, I'm lucky enough that, especially with T-Pain, he knows how to layer it. He knows where the notes need to sit. He knows all that stuff. So I can't take all the credit for it, but I do like to use, and I'll put it on here now. I do like to use the C6 when it comes to when you want to use the word milky, right? You've got your different. Let me go to where it's playing. Sorry guys, I'm moving kind of quick. I know we're getting low on time, but
No. It's not low on time. It's
right. So what I like to do here is I probably already did it on this. I'll find the frequency that I really like, and it works just like any other multiband, right? But I'll compress the shit out of it. I mean, it's little movements. Like it's not, like I take the romance out of this. Oh my God, Fabian's a legend. Is this and that? Yeah, all I do is just little movements. You know what I mean? Like I just do little things here and there, little tweaks. Like so like, and then look, you got the mids. I would do the same type of thing. I would find where I really like the sound, compress it, and then add it up. You know what I'm saying? Like this. I mean, that's pretty much. It's not. It's not.
How about
surgery,
another question from? Let me just throw a quick shout out to some people so this is actually live and I'm not bullshitting you here. Richard Olson, hi. Xavier Taylor, hi. Nano, Keith, Francisco, hi. Brian, hi. Nico, hi. Karam, hi. Richard has a question. Fabian, do you use subtractive EQ a lot when you're coming up with moving these frequencies apart for the vocals?
Yeah, I do, but I don't see, because today I'm showing you guys all pretty much additive, right? The only time I use subtractive is on vocals. More time, I wouldn't say the only time, but the majority of the time I'll ever use subtractive is if there's problematic stuff, right? If there's stuff in the room that I'm hearing, if there's
like
things
a
that are
clash.
bothering me, yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'm doing, because vocals to me in a hip hop song, it's drums and bass, vocal, right? That's what we're listening for. The beat makes you dance. The vocals, you're paying attention to what they're saying. So what I'll do my subtractive EQing is more done on the music to carve the hole for the vocal to sit in. So the vocals, I don't do much subtractive. It's mostly of a cleanup process. That's the reason I would use it. But more times than not, I'm saying there's obviously exceptions, but the subtractive EQing that I do for the most part is to create the space for the lead vocal. Lead vocals heavy around 2 to 4K. You could bet when you start looking at my music, there's going to be some cuts there to make the vocal not have to be super bright,
right,
or super harsh, but it's still going to sit there. So that's where my subtractive is being done more on the music side, so the vocal could sit within it.
So one of the things that I really like to do near the end of these events is talk about paying things forward. Talk about how we help, other than doing events like this, how we help the people who are coming up in the ranks. So, and I have this little graphic on the screen right now called Pay It Forward, because the question that I always love to ask at the end of these events is, if you had the chance to give one piece of advice to those people who are coming up behind you, who are in the bedrooms right now, or in the corners, or on the bus with their laptop, or working up to getting their first piece of work in the music industry, to get to where you are in your career, what would that advice be?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the most important piece of advice that I ever received is just know who you are and where you are, right? Become, we all, our ultimate goal is always to be the best of anything, right? I mean, at least for me, that's just kind of always, I can never be second place. I always have to be the best. But don't let that eat you up, man. Take care of yourself. You need to, I mean, listen, I lost 50 pounds since this pandemic started, right? Take care of yourself. The mental health, physical health is important, but that's something I want to share with you guys, because it's very important, because to me, it's been a road for me. You know what I mean? But to answer the question about a piece of advice for your career, so know where you are and know who you are, right? I see people all the time, like they follow me, and Instagram, it's a world that we're in right now. And I don't knock anybody's hustle, but people that know me know that people's names that say mixed by, it really irks me, because you're not a mixer yet, right? So when I say know where you are, learn slowly, take your time, because there's no rush, there's no overnight thing for this to happen. I remember I woke up one day and I was like, oh, I'm a mixer now. This is awesome. I don't have to record anymore. All my clients are mixing clients, things like that. But you know, I see guys and I meet them. I go to the schools, I meet them there, and then oh, follow me on Instagram. I see their thing, and it's like I'm a mix engineer, mixing and mastering engineer. You literally just saw a session for the first time last month, right? You're not a mixing engineer, you're not a mastering engineer. So understand that, and that's okay. It's hustle, right? We all want to build our company up, but understand where you are. Take your time, because I promise you, no matter what presets you have, no matter what you copy from this masterclass, no matter what you see on this guy's Twitch and this guy's that, you are not going to have the skill when you need it unless you take your time and learn it. So that's my biggest piece of advice. Take your time, go slow, learn as you go. We all have to, you don't have, the opportunities aren't there like they used to. I mean, I was in the studio with the greatest people of all time, but from that, I seen guys come and, like, you know, yesterday they were literally the intern at the studio, and then today they're mixing a record. That's awesome for them. I'm so happy. But what happens is, a couple weeks down the road, a couple months down the road, that one artist that gave him a chance cooled off, and they always do. This cycles. Now what do I do? Well, this guy did, you know, he mixed that song. It was awesome. It was a huge hit. Yeah, but it didn't sound good. So now that the next person comes through, they send the session and it doesn't sound the same. Now you look like an idiot. You've lost all your, you know, you've lost all your momentum, and you're basically starting over, where you're not supposed to turn down opportunities. I'm not saying that, but there has to be a balance of understanding where you are in your career. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give to anybody.
I think the other thing is, you know, let's talk for a second while we're talking about that piece of advice, which was freaking awesome, is know that the artist has an emotional connection to the rough mix, and know how to listen to the artist, because it's not your song, it's their song.
Right. Well, that's something that I pride myself on a lot. Like, you know, a lot of my colleagues, I see them and they're so arrogant. They're like, you know, I did this, I made this song a hit, this and that. And I'm like, well, the song was a hit. It was a hit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's got, I mean, the mix.
If it's a good song, it's going to be a good song. It's going to last.
Yeah, exactly. But when my approach when it comes to mixing a song is always, I try to listen to what the artist tried to do, what the producer tried their best to do. Like, I will take a song and I'll just make it sound like it went through an atomic bomb. You know what I mean? Like, I don't change the, you know, and I'm going to contradict myself now, because earlier I said I changed Payne's auto-tune a couple times, but I don't try to recreate the song when I'm mixing it. I try to see what they tried to accomplish. I try to make it one fit in the playlist world that we're in, right? I try to make it compete. Now everything's closed, but I try to make it, when it comes on in the club, like, it better be bigger than the song that just went off, you know? And then, but all of that, I try to make it still what the artist was envisioning. So, you know, we have egos. We're in a room by myself. I'm my biggest fan. I'm always in here. I'm jamming. I think it's awesome. I sent it to the artist. Oh man, can you make it sound? I don't know. The rough just had a thing, and I listened to the rough, and it's a paper thin piece of shit. So I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, so there are times, like, I used to wear a t-shirt around Miami, use the rough mix then. Like, I literally would wear that t-shirt, like, yo, use the rough mix. If it's that great, what are you paying me all this money for then? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can move on to the next one. But over the years, you know, you start to learn and understand, like, it's nothing personal. It's an emotional connection they created. They've heard it that way for a year. You know, most of them are tuned in on it a lot. So we look at ourselves as an extension of the artist. We look at ourselves as an extension of the producer. It's not about you. It's about them. It's about you helping their vision come to life. That's another great piece of advice. It's not about you ever. It can never be.
Fabian, this has been freaking awesome. If you could hold right there for a sec while I close out, I will be right back with you. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a true Open Sessions Masterclass with Fabian Marasciulo. Amazing guy, amazing human being, and amazing talent. I would like to add something to what he said there at the end, which is, everybody talks about the hustle. This year, especially this year, look after yourself first and foremost, because the hustle is something that can wait. If you're not healthy and you're pushing yourself and you're not getting enough sleep, then you're not going to be your creative best. You're not going to be your best at anything. So pull back, take a look at the world, take a look at what you're doing, and then take smaller steps, but make them very clear steps. The other piece of advice I would like to give you is, when it comes to plugins, take advantage of the fact that we have a ton of presets. It's not a cheat to use these artist presets. We put a lot of time into them. The artists put a lot of time into them. These are there to help you. These are starting points. In all of these plugins that Fabian just went through, and all the ones I've been through with Masterclasses and everybody else I've been with on this show, these are there to help you. And hopefully they're going to make you sound amazing and your work sound amazing. Much love to you. I hope you're happy. I hope you're safe. And I'll see you next time. Cheers. MPA out.
Baby,